Welcome to the messy middle of entrepreneurship, unfiltered and unapologetic. Uncensored Entrepreneurs, hosted by Starr, Robert Wall, and Tina Torres-Wilson, brings you real stories from the trenches of building a business. Those late nights, hard lessons, big wins, and everything in between. This is where the truth about entrepreneurship lives. No fluff, no filters, just raw, honest conversations with founders who have lived it. So, if you're over the highlight reel and you're ready for the real deal, hit play.
Welcome to today's show with Uncensored Entrepreneurs. We have an amazing guest, Bob Burg, with us today. We're going to be diving into the go-giver way. Give exceptional value, enjoy extraordinary results. It is generally agreed upon that entrepreneurship is the engine that drives an economy upwards and is primarily responsible for its growth. Entrepreneurs create jobs, bring better and more affordable products and services to the marketplace, resulting in greater social wealth, overall wealth, and vastly improved standard of living. And while we treasure the entrepreneur, one needs to not start their own business in order to be one. One can be an entrepreneur within a company setting, often called intrapreneurs, and can lead from anywhere they happen to be positioned. Bob Burg, co-author of the international bestseller, The Go-Giver, and much sought-after speaker and sales and leadership conferences, is committed to inspiring the entrepreneurial spirit in all of us. He shows that companies, both large and small, that conduct their business the go-giver way are not only of much greater value to their customers, they are also significantly more functional and profitable as well.
Welcome, Bob, to Uncensored Entrepreneurs.
So great to see you both. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I know we only have a little bit of time with you, so I want to kind of dive into this interview. Okay, so first, the go-giver. Tell us about the go-giver way. What is the go-giver way?
So The Go-Giver is a parable that was co-authored with John David Mann, who's a fantastic writer and author and human being. And really the basic premise is that shifting your focus, and this is really, I think, where it all begins, shifting your focus from getting to giving. Now, when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others. Understanding that doing so is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it's the most financially profitable way as well. Now, and not for any kind of way out there, woo-woo, magical, mystical reasons, nothing like that. It's actually very rational. It's very logical. When you're that person who can take your focus off yourself and make it all about serving others, discovering their needs, their wants, their desires, to help them solve their challenges and their problems, people feel good about you. In fact, they feel great about you. They want to know you, they like you, they trust you, they want to be in relationship with you, they want to do business with you, and they want to tell the world about you. They want to be what we call your personal walking ambassadors.
I love that. Bob, as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we're in that sales mentality of like bringing in the income. So how can entrepreneurs actually shift their mindset on a daily basis to that giving mentality as they operate in their daily operations?
Yeah, and first, I think, Starr, it's very important to understand there's nothing wrong with bringing in the income. In fact, there's everything right about bringing in the income. It's that focusing on that isn't what's going to do it. And here's what I mean. For years, when I spoke at corporate sales conferences, I would often begin by saying, nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet. Okay?
Yes.
Nobody's going to buy from you because you need the money or you would like the sale to happen. And they're not even going to buy from you just because you're a nice human being. They're going to buy from you because they believe that they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. So it's very important to understand. It's not that you don't care about making money. Of course you do. You're in business. It's that alone isn't what's going to do it. It's only going to happen because you have been able to communicate value to that other person that in which they understand why they're better off by buying. And you communicate it not by talking, by listening, by asking questions, right? By discovering their needs, wants, and desires. The result is the income. This is why John David Mann and I say that money is simply an echo of value. Okay. Money is simply an echo of value. It's the thunder, if you will, to value's lightning. which means nothing more than understanding that the focus must be on what you're providing, the value you're providing another person. That must be your focus. The money you receive is simply a natural result of the value you've provided.
Mic drops here. The concept of adding value is emphasized throughout your entire book. Can you dive a little bit deeper into what adding value means and how individuals can identify opportunities to add value in their normal everyday interactions?
Sure. So it's important, I think, to really understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It simply is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, what have you, that brings so much worth or value to another human being that they will willingly exchange their money for this and be glad they did, while you make a very healthy profit. A very quick example would be the accountant who you hire to do your taxes, who she charges you, $1,000. That's her price, $1,000. But what value does she give you in exchange? Well, through her work, through her knowledge, her energy, through getting to know you and your business, to understanding what you're looking to accomplish. She's able to save you $5,000 in taxes. She saves you countless hours of time, and she provides peace of mind for you and your family, knowing that it was done right, right? So she gave you actually well over $5,000 in value, much more in value than what you received in payment. So you feel great about it. She makes a very healthy profit. So just intrinsically, by the very nature of what she did, she gave you value. But it's more than that. That's the intrinsic value. But the actual value that distinguishes you from every other accountant in that case, or whatever it is you happen to do, is what more you're adding in terms of the actual experience. This is the extrinsic value. Okay. And we call these elements of value. See, here's the thing. We know that if a prospective customer or client cannot distinguish between any two or more products, services, or providers, it's always going to come down to who has the lowest price. And trying to make low price your unique selling proposition, unless your last name is Walmart,
Bad business plan.
naughty business plan, horrible business plan, is not a good way to do business. It's not sustainable. It's not rewarding. It's not profitable. So no, when you sell on low price, you are a commodity. When you sell on high value, you're a resource. So the question becomes, how do I do that? If I'm selling a product or service, it's pretty much a commodity. How do I distinguish myself? The short answer is you've got to be that additional value, because they're buying from you before they're buying your company, before they're buying your product or service. Now, so how do you do that? Well, the good news is there are dozens, if not hundreds of ways to communicate that additional, that extrinsic value. They tend to come down to 5, what we call elements of value. And those 5 are excellence, consistency, attention, empathy, and appreciation. And to the degree that you and those on your team are able to communicate one or more, hopefully all 5 of those at every touch point, from the moment you meet that person through the follow-through relationship building process, sales process, referral process, to the degree you can do that, that's the degree that you take competition and low price totally out of the picture.
And also, I know that you focus on an emphasis that you put in your reading is about relationship building. And that's a theme that we talk about on the show all of the time. So how can businesses use relationship building to actually expand and grow?
Well, one of the things I've said, and I said this in my first book, Endless Referrals, 30 years ago or so, and was saying it before that, and it continues to be, the basic premise of everything I do and teach today, is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. Well, how do we build trust? How do we earn trust? Well, again, it's understanding, and Dale Carnegie taught us this in his classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People. In fact, I think this was the basic premise of everything he taught, certainly of that book. And that is that ultimately people do things for their reasons, not our reasons. So when we can make our entire focus discovering their reasons, or again, it goes back to value, which is again, relative worth, or desirability, meaning what? That it's not a matter of what we think is of value to them or what we think they should think is of value to them. It's what they find to be of value. And to the degree we discover that and communicate that in everything we say and do, that's the degree we build trust.
You've done such an incredible job of bringing value to the marketplace, and especially right now, right? Like we went through COVID and everybody was locked down in their homes and buying to make themselves feel better. So it was a click and buy marketplace. We're not in that marketplace anymore. You have to give value. You have to show up and see a long-term vision for your business and really truly care about other people. And that's really what you talk about a lot of the time.
And that was a great point, Bob, because we often see that we know what our clients need. And sometimes we're so busy trying to force this need upon them, and they may not see the value in that messaging that we're trying to communicate. So it's very important that we understand and we're communicating on a level that they perceive as valuable.
Absolutely. You know, it's really interesting. A friend of mine, colleague Frank Favaro, who was a wonderful, very successful salesperson for years, and a couple of years ago decided to go into his own business teaching the customer experience. That's his, niche that he really spits. That's his sweet spot. And so he started going to all these companies, and this is in the Akron, Ohio area where he lives. And his target market is a very particular market. And so he was, prospecting the various CEOs of these small to medium-sized businesses. And he was really getting nowhere with them because they did not believe they needed help in terms of customer experience. And we're never going to proactively work on something that we don't believe we need to work on. That just makes sense. So what he did is he became a secret shopper, and he started calling the companies and recording the calls. Now, what he was asking them was, is there an opening for a job here? Now, this is important because in his niche market at that time, his target market, they were desperate for new talent, desperate for it. There was a time where they needed. And the two main answers he was getting was, no, we're not hiring. And the ones who even knew they were didn't really know where to send him. It was like a different place every time. Well, he's recording these. He now brings these to the different CEOs. Now the CEOs understand they have a problem.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
then now the answer to that, he's the solution to that problem. So yeah, if they don't understand it's of value to them, you can know that it's of value, but if they don't know, well, it's the same as it not being there.
Yeah. How do you know though? Like, how do you know that you're speaking the language that the market is receiving? You're communicating clearly enough.
Well, first, if you have a specific target market that you work, it is your job to know everything about that market that you possibly can. He actually came from that marketplace, so he understood the language anyway. But
Sure.
there are also people that, work within markets that they've never been involved in that market, but they've made it their priority to learn that market and know it so well that, that people would say, wow, I thought you were with us for years, right?
Sure.
So I think there are two general areas in terms of the value we can provide to a certain market that we're targeting. One is the overall general, this is what they do, this is what they need, these are the issues going on in that marketplace, in that community, and so forth. And that's fine. That's entry fee to get into the game. You've got to know that. Then there's the conversations you have with them when you're doing the actual discovery, so that you can ask very specific questions and listen in such a way that not only are they telling you what they need, want, and desire, right? As my good friend Jeff West says, they need to say what they need to hear, right? It's them saying it as much as us, but also knowing how what you do serves them even better than they would know what you do serves them. So you're able to see situations where they may have a great opportunity, but they don't know that. They can't realize it. And you can strengthen them there. Or they may have a problem or potential problem that they just don't know. And you can help strengthen them there, right? Those are the insights that you're adding over and above, just them telling you what they need.
All right. So were you talking about basically speaking their language? Because sometimes, for example, people could say in business, their sales are down or they can't find quality leads. But in reality, their marketing needs work or their systems need work. And so it's really like about speaking the language of your client versus your area of expertise. Is that?
Yeah, you've got to know how your area of expertise adds value to their issues,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But how to
Yeah.
communicate that too has to be very, very clear, because
Oh,
you might be
sure.
talking about these higher level problems, right? You
Mhm.
know that people have, but
Mhm.
when it comes down to serving the marketplace, they might just think, oh, my sales are down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. And so often, just like with objections, right? The objection they give isn't necessarily the actual objection. It's more a manifestation of the root cause. Well, it's the
Yes.
same with this. My sales are down. Well, what does that really mean? So you've got to determine why they're down. You know they're down.
Yeah.
What you don't know is why they're down. And
Right.
that's what, right. Exactly.
I hope you're enjoying this conversation. I want to take a quick moment to share something that comes up a lot with my clients. Selling doesn't have to feel heavy or exhausting. I work with course creators and coaches who are tired of launching all the time and not seeing consistent results. Inside Pink Door Marketing Agency, I help them build evergreen systems that work in the background and bring in the right people with ease. If you're ready to sell in a way that feels aligned, visit pinkdoormarketingagency.com. Now let's get back to the show. I am a self-publishing expert and I help people write books. So one of the questions that some of my audience wants to know is, what advice would you give to an aspiring author or entrepreneur who are looking to create a meaningful impact through their work, drawing from your experiences with the Go Giver and other ventures? So like, how would they be able to use that book for their purposes?
A book really is a magnificent positioning tool. So, anything we want to do, if someone says, well, I want to write a book. So my first question would be, why is that? What is it that you're looking to attain from that book? Because remember, it could be, first of all, just a sense of joy, knowing that I've put my message down. I don't really care who reads it other than my family, my, descendants. I want, that's a perfectly legitimate reason if that's what you want to do. It could be, I want to make a lot of money directly from that book. Well, that's fine. If you do that, you have to know that you've got to treat that like a business, totally. And there's going to be things you're going to have to do for the next 10 years, because we know that you usually don't make money directly from the book. It's the back end of the book and the derivatives that you're going to. So if you're going to use it because you want that to help position you in your business, now you're writing it with a different purpose and you're going to look to do certain things with it. But yes, absolutely. I mean, I wrote my first book back in the 90s because when I was at a National Speakers Association convention, not sure, but the two of the veteran speakers, I'd been in the business a few years, had been doing fairly well after a slow start. And they said, Burg, you're really ready to write a book now. And I said, oh, I really don't want to. I'm kind of just in a groove right now. I finally gotten to the point where and they said, well, here's the thing, if you write a book, it's going to be easier to market yourself, position yourself as an expert. You're going to get higher fees. You're going to get more referrals. And they went through a litany. I think I need to write a book. So yeah, absolutely. It's a great idea if that's something that will serve you. I would absolutely ask Tina, is this something that would serve me, and let her go through a discovery with you and determine what it is you want to do it for, how it would help you. And if so, then you take the next step. I'm looking at a Robert's quote here that he just posted. Over the years, I've heard you say, let's change the term from upsell to upserve. I love that. I agree with this. I learned that from a person. Oh, he's a leadership authority. The name just escaped me as I was about to say it. So that's not something I made up, but absolutely. There are different words we can use. And it's not so much about even the other person as much as what we're trying to tell ourselves. If we believe we're trying to upsell someone, hey, I'm a big advocate for selling, because I think of selling as helping another person. When people say, well, don't sell, serve. Well, that's what selling is. It's serving. Still, the term upsell has kind of like that I orientation, that I focus. Well, I didn't make enough money from this person, so I'm going to upsell. So let's instead say upserve. And what that means is basically the same thing, other than it's about the other person. It's providing them more value. Now, what's the result? Well, again, money's an echo of value. So the result is you're going to earn more money, but you're going to do much better when you think of it as upserving than upselling. My friend Richard Wildman, who has a great book, 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life by Richard Wildman. He's given me so much great advice through the years. For example, instead of saying feel free to, he suggests saying feel welcome to. Feel free is nice. Okay. Feel free to call, feel free to join us. That's great. But everybody says that. How about feel welcome to call?
Reminds me of the Chick-fil-A philosophy. Instead of saying thank you, have a good day, they always say it's my pleasure.
Say in Ritz-Carlton, the same. And here's the interesting, you look at Ritz-Carlton, right? And they always say my pleasure. They never say hi, hey, or how you doing. It's always good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon the time of day, right? And you think, well, okay, so that's Ritz-Carlton. They're the top. You know what? Every other hotel, motel in the world, whether corporate international conglomerate or mom and pop could do the same thing. Marriott, Hyatt, Westin, all wonderful, wonderful properties, by the way. They could do that, and they do sometimes, and sometimes they don't. Super 8 Hotel could do it. Motel 6, where Tom Bodette leaves the lights on for us. They could do it too. And so could Dave and Mary and their team of 3 people at Dave and Mary's Stop and Stay In.
Yeah.
They could do that. Why don't they? I don't know. Okay. But they could. And you said, oh, well, Dave and Mary and their team of 3 people at the Dave and Mary, they could say, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and my pleasure till the cows come home. They're not taking market share away from Ritz-Carlton. Of course they're not. But they will absolutely own their targeted demographic. And they will take market share from Motel 6 and probably even Super 8. Because when you go to Dave and Mary Stop and Stay In, you feel like $1 million. They make you feel welcome and remembered and good about yourself. And you write the whole thing. So we can all do those little things. Richard Wildman, in his book, he talks about a financial advisor who had a client for years and years. And this person, nice person, but they were very just kind of stoic and they kept to themselves. And what he said, what he taught at one of his events was, when you walk your client out of your office to the elevator, actually get in the elevator with them and go down to the bottom floor with them, walk them out of the door. Nobody does that. This person did that. And she said the whole ride down, the person really didn't say much. They got out of the elevator, walked to the front door, and he said, no one's ever done something like that for me in my entire life. And I know I don't talk a lot, but I've always appreciated you. And now the next part is really special. This guy was actually a very wealthy person, and he just was asked to serve on the board of a foundation with millions and millions of dollars. He said, I would like you to come to our next meeting so I can introduce them to you. And she ended up getting the investment account.
Wow.
All because she walked the person, not just to the elevator.
And it took what, 2 minutes?
Exactly. So there's all these things we can do. So, when we just adjust our language and adjust our ways of doing things so that we add that little extra value to another human being.
I'm like just processing all of this, right? Like, how could we add more value? What could we be doing differently? How could we give, because a lot of times we put together programs or we sell something, and where people lose is on the customer service side, right? Like on bringing people in and making them feel important and valuing them. People think, oh, I got the customer, I got the sale, that's it. As opposed to like, this is the time when we build relationships. This is the time when we value these people. This is the time where we bring them into our world and show them how much we appreciate them. And I think sometimes in our busy lives, we forget those pieces. I know that I've been guilty of that here and there, and really that's where the magic happens. Like, that's what sets you apart for years. Like, we're telling this story, years later, and it's because that person took an extra 2 minutes of time, or they took, a little bit of extra care and sent a message. I was listening to a communication expert on Ed Milet the other day, and he was talking about, when I have an interview with somebody, if they message me, later that evening and just say, hey, I really valued our conversation. I really appreciated what you said about your marriage and the relationship that you have with your wife. Like, that meant a lot to me. And I took a lot out of that to go that extra mile and send a picture when you've been in an event with somebody, you've taken a selfie or something. And a few weeks later, you send them a picture and say, hey, it was really nice to see you. Those little things make all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. It's fantastic. You hit it right on the head.
Big information today from Bob Burg. Bob, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you coming on. He is a longtime friend, and I absolutely love him. Okay, so one thing that you do is you do a daily impact. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Give them the call to action for that, and then we will talk to you later and continue Uncensored Entrepreneurs for the next 25 minutes.
Thank you. And yeah, it comes out every morning, early in the morning, 5 o'clock, wherever you happen to be. So it's there waiting for you when you get up. And it's just a little spark of sometimes inspiration, sometimes how to, sometimes this and that to kind of keep you going throughout the day. So you can get it by visiting Burg, BURG.com, and you should see one of those annoying little pop-ups come up. Or you can go directly to the URL that was kind enough to be posted.
Yep, that's right down here. Thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you.
Great day.
Bye-bye.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing thing. It kind of reminds me of what I used to teach. When I was a gratitude specialist, I always taught how to keep that follow-up, because I always used to tell people that it's so much more expensive to get a new client than to have one that you have. whether it's if they can buy from you again or anything else, it can be a good referral source for you. And it just proves that.
Honestly, how amazing is Bob? Like, if you haven't read his book, if you haven't like brought that into your realm, it's a lot of what we talk about, adding value, showing up in a way that you give and give and give. And it's so interesting because like the last few weeks have been crazy in business. And I know you guys have been, you know, pivoting and adjusting course. And I just had this conversation with a past client right before I got on. Weird. I was a few minutes late talking to her too. Right. And so we had this conversation and I shared with her, hey, this is how the market is shifting. This is how I've had to pivot. This is what we've got to do right now to give more and serve. And she's like, that's just it. She's like, I never thought that I would go down this route, but like, how do I serve people now? And I think we need to start asking ourselves that question a lot more often because of different shifts and changes in the marketplace, and things are changing very, very quickly. But how to show up and give more. And if the current offer that you have is not speaking to your audience, and if it's not something they can buy or they need right now, then it's probably not the right offer at the time. And as entrepreneurs, we have to learn how to pivot, and we have to learn how to pivot really quickly. And it doesn't mean that you won't circle back around to that. It doesn't mean that you won't go back down that path. It just means that we have to adjust course, just like if you were sailing, right? You have to adjust course with the wind as the wind blows to make sure that you're being pulled forward. So thank you guys for having some grace today. But like, this conversation is so impactful and he's so wise. I'm just like, oh my God, I could listen to him forever.
And Christina, you had some great success with your pivot too. I know I had a successful week. I think you said the last few weeks you had a great success in sales. Even though you pivoted, you brought something to market that the audience still needed, desired, they could actually access.
Access is a great word, Starr, because I think that people want to access things, right? But then, oh, I can't afford it, or I don't have the time to do it, or it's not the right time, or, you know, there's all of these things that people come up with in their heads. And sometimes it is a financial thing, right? Like, especially right now, like, let's be real for a second, okay? The people that are winning right now are the ones that are willing to pivot. And I've watched some of my coach or mentors, right? Like, they are coaching 6, 7, 8-figure entrepreneurs, and they're scaling their business to 9 figures, right? But I've watched them pivot over the last year and offer a lower ticket product to bring in more people and to bring people into their wheelhouse as time shifts. And that was actually a huge aha moment to me. I was like, if these people are charging, you know, $30,000 or $40,000 to connect with and to be a mentor to, and now they're offering lower, you know, $3,000, $5,000 programs, what does that mean to the marketplace? And why am I not adapting that? Why am I not doing something different, right? Same thing goes like with services. I remember working at the salon, and Starr, you can probably add to this, working at the salon, and, you know, people maybe couldn't afford to have like a full head of highlights and a haircut and a blowout and, you know, all that kind of stuff, but they could afford to have a partial highlight, and they could afford to get their haircut every other time, right? When things were challenging. And so when you meet people where they're at, that's actually where you maintain your loyalty and trust with people.
And I positioned my business as a luxury brand, but eventually I brought in a second tier product that I said, this is still great quality, but for those who cannot afford our luxury line, here is something for you. We've tested it, it's still good. It won't last as long, but it'll still get you through a certain period of time. So we position the market on that really well. But yeah, absolutely.
Good, better, best, you know, good, better, best. I know a lot of coaches out there too are pivoting to payment plans. You know, small monthly payment plans over 3 months or 4 months or 6 months, you know, whatever you can do. And those things are helping tremendously as well. And it's something psychologically, you're not spending $3,000 up front, but you're spending $795. Meet your customers where they are. And I'm in a list building like program right now. And it's kind of talking about like, if your freebie's not working, create something else. So not over and over again, keep it up there for a month or two. See the metrics on there, put it up there. Okay, that's not working. Let's try something else, because you have to meet your clients where they are. You have to meet your clients where they need things, just like what Bob said. You know, stop worrying about what you need and what you think that you are adding, and see what they need and what they want from you.
Start asking. And I also want to give some clarity to this because a few weeks ago, I did a post, like if you constantly put stuff out there for free or for $7 or $27, that's who you're going to attract, right? So you have to be careful with your language when you're audience building, when you're list building. You have to be careful with that because sometimes, you want to be expensive because of the caliber of education or the caliber of product. Like, Starr said she's positioned herself as a luxury brand, or, Ryan's like, I want to sell luxury real estate versus people that are looking for a deal that isn't there anymore, right? So how you position yourself matters, but it's not to say that you can't use these tools. Don't become known for them, but use these tools that are relevant to your marketplace and relevant to the customers that you want to attract down the line as a way to build relationships and bring in new people and have bigger conversations, because so many people get this wrong and they think my content is to sell. Your content is not to sell. Your content is to connect and create conversations, and that's it. And then you have to
give, oh my gosh, if she's giving us all this for free, imagine what she's going to give us if we pay her $2.99 or if we pay her $3. It's going to overvalue. What is it? Like over deliver, under promise, over deliver all the time. And you want to do that. And those kind of people, and I taught this for so many years, and it's in my Beyond Gratitude book as well, as strategies to attract, connect, and convert more clients. But it's also to keep those clients coming back to you. Like I said, no matter if they're buying from you again and again, but to keep them in front of you so they can be the biggest referral source that you have ever had. I literally have 3 or 4 clients that have never bought anything from me physically, but that send people to me all the time.
Yeah.
Robert, I know Robert has a lot of people in his sphere that are strictly positioned as a referral base for his business. Absolutely. And Tina, I like the fact that you talked about list building. And one thing that I always talk about is, on Facebook, we teach all these strategies. You can have 5,000 friends. And obviously,
it's Facebook goes down for 2 hours and you start having a panic attack.
But it's also important that we bring new people into our world and new followers so that you have more people that you can sell to. Sometimes we'll see people with 2,000 friends and they're just only selling to these 2,000 people for 4 or 5 years. And even with my hair company, I'd had people come in and I'm thinking, oh, I'm doing all this marketing in SoCal. I've got amazing business. And then people are like, oh, we never heard about you, or we just found out about you. So it's very important that you continuously get yourself out there. And with list building, that's a great way to do that. And you can run ads to those freebies or those resources or those low ticket offers.
That is a differentiator.
Use other people's audiences. Hey, Christina, would you want to do a podcast swap or a Facebook Live swap? She has a complete different audience than I do, and I can do the same thing for her. So then different people are seeing her on my stuff and different people are seeing me on her stuff. And that just helps you so much.
Creating strategic partnerships. And I think that also, what you said was really important, Starr, because this is what I see makes or breaks people in business, especially online business. When you talk about having 2,000 followers that you continue to sell over and over and over to, when you don't continue to grow that list, right? Like I see so many people come in and they have tons of success. And then all of a sudden they're like, now what do I do? Because I've sold to everybody that's willing to buy.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now there's 2 pieces to this, right? Now you have to learn how to grow your network. Now you have to learn how to market. Now you have to learn how to connect and add value to people that you've never met before. And that communication and relationship building piece becomes inevitable because you've run out of people to talk to. And that, honestly, I see that time and time again as the deal breaker, whether people are willing to do that or not. Are they willing to get outside of their comfort zone and start talking to people that they've never met before? Or are they going to stay over here in the comfort zone where friends and family and coworkers, people they've gone to school with, all these people that they feel comfortable talking to have become their market? What if we bring in all of these new people? It's really interesting because I'll be really honest. I've even dug in and okay, I know that I need to create a new Instagram account because my Instagram account has been stagnant for 2 years because it was hacked. And so I've got some weird governor on it that isn't helping me grow. I can't even attach ManyChat to it. So I'm doing no favors to myself. But here I am procrastinating, being like, oh, I've got to go do that again. I've got to create another, right? Like I'm saying it out loud to hold myself accountable. Okay. Because I know that it's something that I need to go do now. Because I can't just depend on what I've got so far. Even after 8 years of doing this, right? Yeah. So it doesn't end. You continue to give, you continue to create conversations, and you continue to connect with new people all the time.
I think that list building is so important. I think we probably should have a whole thing on this because just like last week when Facebook and Instagram and Hulu and all these other things went down, right? Everybody was like, it's so true that Facebook can take all your stuff away. Instagram can take your stuff.
I've lost my original Facebook account. Gone.
Facebook groups can be taken away from you just like that. So the only thing you actually own yourself is your email platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
The topic of value is so important. It's very important that you provide value. We're doing this by doing this show. We're not getting paid to produce this content for you. We're doing this for our audience to literally give you value. We teach things that we teach in our high ticket programs here on this show as well. And by us providing value, for example, we're rewarded by that in different ways. I had 2 people come in to purchase something from me, and they both said, "Oh, somebody dropped your name, Starr, at an event that we attended." And I was like, "Who was this person? Like, what was this huge event?" I don't know what it was. And, my colleagues also have the same thing happen. So it's very important that you are providing that value. You're just not, out there selling. But it's also important that you sell too, because we also have a segment of our audience who's afraid to sell. So
I liked how we talked about sales. Like, sales is serving. Could we just rewrite the sales language? Because people get so upset. They're like, I don't want to sell anything to anybody. I'm like, why? What if it's something they're looking for? What if it's something that they really want? Could you imagine going after a profession, okay, and you're like a chiropractor and you're helping people fix their back, or you're a massage therapist and you're helping them work through injuries, and you're like, yeah, but I don't want to sell them anything. And then but what do you need? It's serving people. It's giving to people. Sales is giving. And that's why I'm so happy that we had this conversation with Bob today, because sales is only slimy if you don't believe in what you're selling and you can't produce the result that you're promising. That's the only way that sales is slimy.
Because who here loves to go get a new car?
Dude, I would like to go get a new car.
I actually like going car shopping. When you hate that sleazy salesman. Oh, yeah. Especially if you're a woman, right? You go into a sleep, they're like, ooh.
I'm like, leave me alone. I already know exactly what I want.
That's right. You know who you're dealing with, okay? I've already done my research. So it's so important to show the value, but you also have to learn how to sell properly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's the other thing too. I know I jumped on a couple minutes late, but one of the things that I drill into my clients is you have to do what's best for the person you're speaking to. Your job is not to sell or convince. It's to lead them to a decision that is best for them, whether that is yes or no. And when you bring that energy versus I need to sell to make some money, when you bring the energy of I'm serving people, I'm connecting people, this is what I'm doing. And I mean, even before, when I was down here and I would meet people in Mexico that truly wanted to make some extra money and I couldn't help them with the company that I was with because it wasn't available here, what would I do? I would recommend them to a top earner at another company so that they could actually start earning. And I knew that they'd be taken care of. I knew they'd have great leadership. I knew they'd have great mentorship. Now, that doesn't do a damn thing for me. Yeah. But what it does is it builds reciprocity. It builds trust so that they know that I'm not out just for myself to make money. I'm there because I truly want what's best for you and I want you to win. And when you show up that way, it's different.
Right? I don't know if you guys ever watched Miracle on 34th Street, but I still, to this day, I'm like, oh, it's that Santa Claus treatment where Santa Claus was sending them across the street for a better deal and a better product. And they were like, if you're sending me across the street, I'm going to stay here.
That's right.
You're going to help me save money. I'm going to stay here. I don't care how much money I'm spending. I'm staying here. If you're going to try to help me save money and send me across the street because there's a better value over there, it just kind of gives that, Miracle on 34th Street value type of thing.
I didn't even think of that, Tina. Maybe I need to bring back Miracle on 24th Street with Izzy and watch that movie again.
Next year when Isaac's won.
I'm telling you. So when's the last time I actually watched that movie? Probably 10 years ago, right? So what that just brought to mind was, and this is just a story and it happens all the time. So when I worked in a salon space for 5.5 years, when I first came into being a hairstylist, I worked at a salon. It was the most popular salon in the city. There were 40 employees, right? And when I decided to leave there, it was because my income capped out at $36,000. I couldn't pay my rent. Okay. I couldn't eat. I couldn't anything. I had to make more money than that. And I didn't have the opportunity to do that. So I decided to leave. And when I left, I felt it was personal, but now I realize it was just the influence that I had and the clientele that I had built. When I left, I started working from home because I wanted to have babies. I wanted to have my own schedule. I wanted to do that. And that was actually my whole intention going into hair, is eventually I could work for myself. And so when I started working out of my home, the first month when I left, the salon owner, which has way more income coming in, has, all of these other resources. I was a brand new business starting out from scratch. She called every single one of my clients and offered them a free service, every single one. And I was like, I can't compete with that. Like, I was in tears. I was like, why would you do this when I've spent 5 years building that clientele myself, going out, networking, doing all the work? Like, is that not the clientele that I've built? Just like the client list that you've built, right? And what I did in that time when I really just wanted to scream and kick and like, I can't believe this is happening, is I took a deep breath and I thought, do what's best for them. And I said, look, I left in November. December's coming around. I know you need to save money for Christmas, buy your kids Christmas gifts, go take the free service. And when your next appointment comes around, I'll see you at my salon because it's half the price of what you're going to pay at that other salon. Right. And so, I maneuvered that. And can I tell you that first year of business, I tripled what I made at the salon and I worked 4 days a week.
Wow. Awesome.
So you have to have that abundance mindset, right?
You branding yourself and not the salon that you worked for.
And people come to see you in that space, right? They don't come.
Yeah, your personality, the way that you do their hair is not going to be the same, and they won't have the same experience with another stylist.
Same with coaching, same with what you guys offer, right? Like, they're not going to have the same customer experience. They're not going to have the same book writing experience. They're not going to have that. They buy you. And that's why when you show up with your personal brand and you give and you give and you give, people wondered, how the heck did you have, this much success in the last 5 weeks when you had a baby? Well, I've been giving for 8 years. I've been showing up and serving for 8 years. You guys probably longer than that, right? Like, this is what you do and who you are and how you show up consistently all the time. So people know your heart. They know who you are. They trust you already. And that's why you're going to win over the person that's just trying to sell them the next best thing right now and try and make a buck.
Exactly.
Yes.
Woo, what a good show today. I think we went through like 5 different topics.
Thank you guys. We really appreciate you. And I am so grateful for each and every one of you who shares this show. For those of you that talk to other people about us, right? Like, we're just here giving you the behind the scenes look at becoming an entrepreneur. We know that it's difficult. We know that there are challenges that you have to overcome. We're going to give you the real, raw, and unplugged all the time. But if you have a moment, share, like, follow. All right. And we'll see you again next week.
Thanks for listening to the Uncensored Entrepreneurs. If you're getting value from the show, take a minute to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you tune in. It helps more bold entrepreneurs find us. Until next time, keep showing up, uncensored and unapologetic. And we'll catch you on the next episode.